Welcome back to Whence, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
All right, this is episode 264. So as we mentioned before, we were going to enter a really unique partnership with MasonicRevival.com. And so, through some gracious support, this episode of Whence is brought to you by MasonicRevival.com. And if you don't know, it is a Masonic design group bringing you the latest fashion trends in Masonic accessories and regalia. Great stuff. You got to check out their newest neckties, aprons, and accessories at MasonicRevival.com. And that leads us right into the news. Well, we got some really cool news, actually. We have Brother Edgar Alejandro of Masonic Revival, who is going to be at the Illinois Grand Lodge Sessions down in Springfield. He's going to be there just the one day, which will be Friday, which I believe is the 7th. If you're going to Grand Lodge Sessions of Illinois, find his booth, check it out. He's bringing a limited number of things with him to sell there, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So looking forward to finding Brother Edgar and picking up some new swag, some new Masonic stuff, and I'm really excited about the fellowship we're going to have. So with that, it's going to be really cool. I've been really quiet about it because things don't always turn out the way we plan, but I am going to be installed as a District Deputy Grand Master here in the 1st Northeastern District of the state of Illinois. I'm really excited about it. I'm really honored to be able to serve the brothers here in the 1st Northeastern District in the Grand Lodge. So yeah, it's going to be party time. I'm really looking forward to it. You know, the way I look at leadership, I really kind of go back and plug Brother Michael Shirley's book, which he actually came on our program some time back to talk to us about it, and it was a book on leadership, servant leadership, and we learned so much about that model. And I think that's some lodge leadership stuff maybe we can talk about at a later date. The second piece of news I do have for you is I have just solidified a really amazing opportunity. So I will be speaking at University Lodge in Austin, Texas, at the Austin Club on January 19th. And I believe the Lodge is doing a special mastermind session on the 21st, which is a Saturday morning. I will be speaking about the Word, the Tetragrammaton, and it's going to be a wonderful evening. If you have any inclination of being in the Austin area January 19th, please consider coming on out for that. It is going to be a great evening again. They are raising huge amounts of dollars for the children's charities. So it's really important. I hope you guys all consider going who are in the area and who can go. I've heard this event is ridiculously amazing. They've had some world-renowned Masonic speakers. I'm just so honored I was asked to go down there and really excited. I've never been to Austin, Texas before. I've heard some amazing stories. Brother Josh Huckabee sent me a message the other day. I'm looking forward to meeting up with him, maybe having a pint. This week on the program, we've got some really cool stuff. Specifically, Brother Wayne Greenley, our Australian correspondent for the Midnight Freemasons, did a great interview with his Grand Master. And the interview was text form on the Midnight Freemasons just a few weeks ago on a Friday. Well, this week, the treat is we have the audio actually from that interview, and so we're going to go into that. We'll have that this week, as well as some other things. So without any further delays, let's hop on right into the interview with the Grand Master and hosted by Brother Wayne Greenley.
Thank you for joining us today. This is Wayne Greenley, regular contributor of the Midnight Freemasons, and today we are fortunate enough to be in the presence of the most worshipful Grand Master of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Queensland, Dr. Gary Bacon.
Good afternoon to you, Wayne.
Thank you, most worshipful, and thank you for the opportunity of this interview.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. I'll start this interview by asking, when were you first initiated?
I was initiated in June of 1973 in a small country lodge called Tibrogargan Lodge, number 305, UGLQ, and I'm still a member. Oh. And I've been secretary for the last 22 years. I handed it over at last installation, and I'm now the treasurer.
No. Oh, very good. Why did you become a Freemason?
I joined because I was stationed at a forest research station at Beerwall, and my next door neighbour had a barbecue, and there I met a group of men from Beerwall that my neighbour knew, who was not a Freemason. But a number of these other men that I met were Freemasons, and over the course of the next few months I got to know them, I got to respect them, and I asked them about Freemasonry. And then I was into the lodge.
And now you're the Grand Master. You've taken a good long journey, long step.
Well, that's a 43-year journey to today, and sometimes one needs to cover a period of time. Mind you, it was interspersed with a lot of time out for higher studies, interstate transfers for my jobs, and etc., etc. So it wasn't as though I was full-blown for those 43 years.
And what's your favourite memory of being in a lodge?
Of being in a lodge?
Being in the lodge, yes.
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the mateship, the comradeship, the enjoyment of each other's company, and doing our tasks to the best that we can do, and especially that surrounding the introduction of new men into our craft.
If you could go back in time and witness any Masonic event, what would you choose?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, I would have liked to have been in Edinburgh in December of 1598 when William Shaw produced his first statutes.
Very good. I do enjoy history, and I can't wait to look at the Shaw statutes. Yeah.
Well, as you know, for the 150-year anniversary of the Scottish Freemasonry in Queensland, as you know, the three constitutions were present in Queensland from 1859 when the English came, 1863 when the Scots came, and 64 when the Irish came. At their 150th, we needed to do something very special, and so the librarian and myself decided that what we would do is to have in our presence the 1598 and the 1599 statutes as they were delivered in Scottish brogue, a direct translation, and then a today's translation. And there they are down in the lab wrap room for all of us to see and ponder. And I have to tell you, I quote them quite often. And whilst my own lodge has an English background, and as I'm very familiar with the first Premier Grand Lodge of 1717, etc., I still, if I was asked, who do you think is closest to being a father of Freemasonry, and I know that's almost impossible to say, but for me, the person who did most to put it on the map in a structured way, the beginning of the speculative Freemasonry, was William Shaw.
How much of a difference do you feel you've made to Queensland Freemasonry as the Grand Master?
Well, I believe passionately that no one person can effect change or achieve by himself. Thus, in a team approach, I've had a very, very creative team around me, senior management team you might say, and using their skills and expertise, we have been able to introduce some structural changes, but importantly, those structural changes have come associated with significant constitutional changes. And that has been a significant change from the past, and it was effected by communicating the need for change to our brethren. I went around the state with on a campaign of OD equals change, that is organisational development equals change, and the membership at large voted unanimously for those changes.
What is your message to future Brick Masons?
Look, number one is the enjoyment of our fraternity, the enjoyment of your fellow brothers. I sometimes highlight Freemasonry for me as three things: mateship, giving, and integrity. When you have a look at those three things, and they are just a sort of a modern way of expressing the old way of brotherly love, relief and truth, but in a sort of an Aussie way, they capture, for me, those things that are important. What we don't sort of involve in there are the real landmarks of our order in terms of our belief in a supreme being. But what they do say is that we are about good. We are about doing good within ourselves, to better ourselves per se. And by doing that, we then become better members of our community, better members of our family, better members of our workplace. There is no doubt in my mind that Freemasonry is a great good for an individual and for our community.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Worshipful Master. We're just about to finish. As you are now talking to the world of Freemasons, do you have any other notes you'd like to add up?
Well, one of the great things that I've found about global Freemasonry is that in my travels and in my past career, I've had need to travel very, very widely indeed. And wherever I went, even to a place like Tashkent, the eastern part of Russia at the time, I met Freemasons in the most unlikely of places. But wherever I've gone, to the Rocky Mountains, for example, meeting Anchorage in Alaska, the islands of the Pacific, wherever I've been, and of course England and the continent, wherever I've been, that handshake has been the way to meet good people who have then set us right in terms of where to go, where to stay and what to see. And it's just a magic thing, absolutely magic, that what we learned here in a lodge, in a little simple country lodge here in Queensland, was to give access to global Freemasonry. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for that, Worshipful Master. Myself and the team of the Midnight Freemasons, we really thank you for your time.
Thank you indeed for the opportunity, and I wish them all the best that the great architect of the universe can provide them.
Thank you, most worshipful. And for myself and the Midnight Freemasons, thank you for listening.
All right, how about that? That was pretty darn awesome. Thanks so much to Brother Wayne Greenley, again, our Australian correspondent, who has worked really difficult in getting that interview. It's not easy to get an interview with a Grand Master, as we all know. If you liked that, please go on ahead and go over to the Midnight Freemasons and find the search bar. I think we're going to rearrange where that's located. It's kind of at the bottom of the page. But go ahead and search Wayne Greenley and check out some of his really awesome pieces that he's written for us over there. Just tremendous insight from a brother from a different country, and it's really inspiring. So every other week we have illustrious Brother Stephen L. Harrison on the program. He is a wonderful contributor, and we greatly appreciate what he's done for us. And he also writes for the Midnight Freemasons, as many of you know, and he's got some great books out there. Just recently he published a piece on the Midnight Freemasons a few weeks ago, and I'd like to read it for you. It's called Suitable Proficiency by Midnight Freemason contributor Stephen L. Harrison, 33rd degree FMLR. I've seen it often. A candidate enters the lodge room to receive his fellowcraft or Master Mason degree. In each, the senior deacon leads the candidate around the room, stopping at stations for an interrogation. The officers at those stations ask if the candidate has made suitable proficiency in the preceding degree. He has, replies the senior deacon, as he shakes his head no. Muffled snickering from around the room usually follows. You see, about 15 years ago, my jurisdiction, Missouri, dropped the requirement for proficiencies. Many of our brothers considered that decision to be the worst thing that had happened in our state since the Pony Express went belly up. And it's not exactly breaking news that the debate continues. Those senior deacons aren't shaking their heads for nothing. I recall receiving the pamphlet with the proficiencies when I became an entered apprentice. Yes, in Missouri they are written down in code, but still a practice some consider heretical. Discovering I had to memorize the material gave the word, quote-unquote, daunting, new meaning. Somehow, though, I manned up and learned them for all 3 degrees. Having gone through the experience, I consider it one of the highlights of my Masonic journey. I spent time with my mentor, who not only took me through the rote memorization process, but also explained the things along the way. At the end, I felt a great sense of accomplishment. I also found all that memory work paved the way for learning other parts in the future. Frankly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm still not sure, however, where I fall in the debate we're still having 15 years after the Proficiencies went away. I think there is a feeling that the lack of Proficiencies increases membership, or maybe a better way of putting that is having Proficiencies might scare some men away. So I have to say, in all those years we haven't had them, I've seen some men come through who are some of the finest brothers I know. We wouldn't want to do without them. But would they have joined anyway? In the end, I probably fall somewhere in the middle of the road. I really think it should take more of a commitment to join the fraternity than it does, say, to become a member of your local public TV station. We should require new brothers to demonstrate at least a knowledge of signs, passwords, and maybe even learn the obligation. Going through some old Missouri records, I recently noticed one more interesting fact to consider. Historically, there were a lot of brothers who were initiated, passed, and raised in a matter of days. Sometimes, in fact, on the same day. Meriwether Lewis, for example, was initiated on January 28, 1797, and received his second and third degrees on the following evening. Obviously, he did not learn, quote-unquote, suitable proficiencies in that time span. Lewis and many others who came into the fraternity that way served the craft well. Don't we become a little more proficient in Freemasonry every day, with every meeting, every experience? Perhaps we should look at a proficiency as something other than memorizing a boatload of material. To me, understanding that material is proficiency, and it doesn't come overnight. I wonder what would happen the next time I'm asked if the candidate has obtained suitable proficiency. If I responded, define proficiency. You're right. Maybe not a good idea. Stephen L. Harrison. Well, that's it for this week. Again, I would like to remind everybody that I'll be at the Grand Lodge sessions next week, so the episode will be with Brother Adam Thayer, so get ready for a great episode. He's prepared something really nice for you all. If you're going to be at Grand Lodge sessions, please do find Masonic Revival. Brother Edgar Alejandro will definitely be excited to see you, and I will too. So I will be moseying on around the Grand Lodge building and around downtown all weekend. So if I happen to see you, come up and say hi, and maybe I'll have some lapel pins for you guys. So one other thing that's actually really cool is that I was asked to be on the Brought to Light podcast, which of course is hosted by Brother Jack Aquilina, who is a brother from Victoria in Australia. So it's really exciting. It was a great honor to be on the program. If you are interested in checking it out, I believe the episode will be coming out shortly in the next few weeks, maybe a month. I'm not really sure. However, I will post links to it. It was a lot of fun, and many thanks to the brothers of Victoria and Jack Aquilina for having me on the program. If you like Masonic podcasts, please do not forget to check out the Masonic Roundtable, going live at 10/9 Central every single Tuesday. We just had a great episode with Sister Elena Lamas from the Phoenix Masonry Library and Museum. She's the director of PR. She was a fantastic guest and gave us a great history on LDH. What's LDH? Go watch the episode. It's really good. And if you don't want to watch it, you can download it, of course. It is an audio podcast as well. And of course, I talked about the Midnight Freemasons. So, we publish on the Midnight Freemasons 3 articles every single week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Always new, always refreshing. If it's a post that we posted before, we've always updated some part of it, or we find some way that it is relevant today. So you can find us all at wcypodcast.com, where you can support the show by buying a pin or perhaps donating a little bit through PayPal, whether it's 50 cents or $5, whatever you feel like giving. It all comes back to fund this show. Additionally, you can stop by buybankersbest.com and use a promo code BBWCY357 at checkout for 20% off, and they'll send a little bit back to the show as well. If you like King Solomon's Reserve, or you want to try out that beard oil, it is exclusively available only through the link on our website, so you need to check through there. It's wcypodcast.com. Last but not least, we do of course also have an affiliate membership with Onnit Labs. They make great nutritional items. My favorite thing they make is, of course, Alpha Brain. You've all heard me talk about it in the past. So click through our links on wcypodcast.com and go to that website through us. That way they know where you came from. You can find more information about the Masonic Roundtable at theMasonicRoundtable.com and the Midnight Freemasons at midnightfreemasons.org. I'd like to give a big shout out. I was remiss and I did not mention it in the last couple weeks, but big congrats to Brother Jason Richards for having been put on his Grand Lodge's PR committee, which is a big deal because we all know that PR is the face of the fraternity, and I can't think of anybody better to be on that committee than Brother Jason Richards. So Jason, if you're listening, congrats. And with all that, I guess I'll talk to you guys all in a couple of weeks. So until then, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.